So hopefully we can actually get Cesar on to join us in a little bit to kind of talk about all these other different topics that we kind of touched upon with Coach Echeverry. But we want to get I'm sure you guys want to get our points of view with all of these things. And let's go ahead and start with the first one. And you touched upon it with Coach Echeverry, which I was like, I was concerned of because it is such a really touchy subject that I honestly didn't think that Coach Echeverry was going to give an answer to. And I know that you know what I'm talking about, Ray.
Yeah,
No comment. But
no comment.
what are your thoughts regarding that article by The Athletic, where they mentioned that they went to the USLPA and they gave them two documents. I don't want to say offers. They were referred to as documents. So one of them said that, correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, one of them said that they wanted a 20% pay cut across the board for USL Championship players. And I believe the other one had to do with player contracts if the league decided to not come back for the 2020 season.
Um, I think if at any point the league does come back, the 20% sounds pretty fair because you don't know if these games are going to be played at each of the local sites.
Mm-hmm.
All of these games be played at the IMG Academy. Nobody knows. I mean, at this point, there could be a Uh, I mean, nobody knows at this point because with with how everything is on the West Coast right now, that they're getting hit pretty hard, and also in the East Coast because you've got your Hartford Athletic, you've got your New York Red Bulls too. You've got a little bit of everything going on right now. So there's there's nothing to really say, okay, we're going to all meet here like the way the MLS has proposed at this point. So there's that point of view to look at.
So one of the biggest concerns for me is, in USL, players really aren't paid a lot of money compared to MLS or other leagues, much less in Europe, like more specifically Premier League, um, La Liga. And the reason I mention these leagues is because those are leagues that news came out that teams were, I think this was on a team by team basis, not necessarily a
Mm-hmm.
league wide basis, but teams were trying to discuss with their players to take a pay cut during this COVID-19. And you're talking about $1 million or more than multi-million-dollar contracts, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But you look at the USL, you really aren't paid that much money, and you're a lot of these players. And I'm kind of referencing another athletic article that came out a while back regarding compensation. A lot of players don't have health care. This is before USLPA came into the league, but their CBA it hasn't been discussed at all with USL yet, right? I think that's what I saw in
No,
this article.
no, not yet. But there have been a lot of players throughout social media that they do stand by the players association, whether something was discussed at some point before this season began or whatnot. I'm pretty sure that's been uh, an item that's been on the table. So um, at this point, it is safe to say that those conversations have taken place, but nothing has been made public.
Hmm.
Um, so there's that. And then one other thing where you said like, oh, these players don't make that much money. I'm gonna give you a nice prime example. Adam John, remember him?
Yes, I remember Adam John.
Yes, that guy that scored that ridiculous penalty.
Hmm.
Um, he got signed by Atlanta United. his contract was only paid up to $20,000 to Rising FC for just for Adam John to get that standard MLS contract.
Hmm.
Let's put that into perspective. $20,000, which to you and I may be a little bit of a fortune because of the amount. But if you take a look at it from a standpoint where you are at from a club or in terms of negotiating, it's really not that much, especially for a team that's like categorized as a second division in the United States. It's really pennies on the dollar
It
if
is.
you want to look at it that way.
It is. It's really not a lot of money, and that's because, like you said, it's an entry level MLS contract, and imagine how much these players that are in the USL, how much they're getting paid, plus also the fact Amber Alert, Van Zandt County, Texas, 14-year-old white female, Willow Sermons. So, people, if there's people listening near Van Zandt County, Texas, be on the lookout and check your local media. Received the Amber Alert. I love sharing this kind of information because one kid kidnapped, it's too much. So whatever we can help to get these kids back to their rightful home, the better. And now we're going to go ahead and introduce and actually welcome back our official photographer for Down in the Valley, Cesar Cortez. Cesar, how are you doing, man? It's been a while. I can't hear you.
Peekaboo, Cesar.
Cesar. Doo-doo-doo.
You.
So anyway, while he gets his audio sorted, one of the things that was in that particular article that I was referring to was that a lot of these players didn't even have health care, so you're getting compensated very little compared to other leagues, compared to other players, and you're already gonna be told that there's a possibility you're gonna get a 20% pay cut. It's a lot. It's a lot of.
Yeah, it's like a big time lose-lose. And now, take a look at it from this example. Okay, you're talking about those teams that are independent. Let's take a look at those that are two teams, like your Portland's, like los dos, like us, the NYRB, New York Red Bulls too. So you got to take those in for an example. Do those guys get some sort of a coverage when they're in uniform because they're part of a MLS organization? Because that's that's a two-way battle that you got to face. You've got your two teams, you've got your indie teams. That's the thing that you've got to put on a balance.
So we're also welcoming back Jacob Young. Jacob, how have you been, man? What you been doing while we've been out?
Been doing a lot, and yeah, just glad to be back a little bit. And I guess we're gonna talk about some soccer. I
Finally
still don't know necessarily what too much is in the news for that, besides, of course, leagues trying to open up. And it should be interesting with USL and all of that fun stuff. And then, of course, yeah, it's going to be interesting with the topic that you're talking about right now, which is, of course, people trying to get paid for USL or just USL deciding to pay more.
Yeah, definitely.
This isn't the issue of if they're trying to get paid more here, Jacob. I mean, right now the leagues, if you're not opening up a shop, I mean, the league's not seeing any type of money at this point. I mean, right now, I mean, I'm pretty sure your indie teams that put that into perspective. I mean, it's kind of smart for the USL to kind of come up with this negotiation ploy for a lot of these players at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point that they're not getting paid, and that's true. And of course, yeah, the players aren't going to be able to get paid.
It's not that they're not getting paid. It's not that they're not getting paid. I mean, right now, with everything being on hiatus, maybe all the money is being lost at this point. You kind of have to look at it from this perspective, from all these indie teams. Is it good enough to keep the salary structure at what we're at, or do we tell all teams across the board we need a 20% pay cut in order to kind of finish out the season? Because I don't want to see another NASL part 3 or 4, whatever your reincarnation season that they could face here, and the USL fall into those shadows. So that's just one of the things that I think that the league is just trying to protect, and just asking these players like, hey, just take a 20% pay cut as we try to resume play here, and hopefully things can be sorted out.
Yeah, the big thing about them resuming is, where are they going to resume? We know what the USL is doing. That's a smart decision there. I 100% agree, because, of course, the number one goal, you got to freaking quarantine, and that is very simple. And then, of course, so yeah, we should have one base just like that, and it's going to not only take, of course, just pay cuts and all that. Guess what? You still got sponsors to impress, whether you're the USL, whether you're HEB Park, or, every single team has to impress their sponsors, has to get revenue from them somehow, and that's exactly what. So, yeah, we're looking at that type of situation most likely, and yeah, for the pay cut, I would totally understand until things get going, but guess what? You're probably not going to see fans for the whole entire season. And I know it sounds crazy. People are talking about that they're going to be able to go to sporting events come August and October, but that's when it's supposed to peak back up. But that's besides the point. Yeah, you bring up some good points, Ray, that they're probably going to have to take the pay cut, which, in my opinion, that's okay. You resume some play. If it's in one local place with every team possible, at least in the West and the East, they don't have to play against each other until a championship game. Mm-hmm. I think that's doable.
So we're back online, guys. Sorry for these connection issues. I promise that by next week, now once I'm back in Houston, things are going to be a lot smoother, because connection, internet's a lot better over there. It's the only thing I'm missing from Houston right now. But anyway, so we were talking about this whole issue about going back. Now here's the thing that I do want to ask Jacob, because you mentioned about playing behind closed doors, and one of the questions that was brought up in that discussion is, how are these players going to sustain themselves, or not the players, the teams? I think it was somebody from The Athletic mentioned that the USL met with, say again?
It was Jeff Reuter,
the
exclusive USL writer.
But what I was going on is, he mentioned that the sources told him that the USL met with USL Championship owners and asked them what would be better if the USL season for 2020 was canceled completely, or going back with empty stadiums. And I believe he mentioned that most of the owners said might as well just cancel the season, that it was going to be less, it was going to make less of an impact in their budget for these owners to just cancel the season than playing the games behind closed doors. What are your thoughts on that? I'll go with Cesar first, because I know he hasn't talked so far.
Honestly, I wouldn't see a problem with that, considering that, well, majority of the clubs, they do rely on ticket sales to, for income. Mm-hmm. But another thing, and it was funny because this was recently done. Look at the latest WrestleMania. What did they do? They did it behind closed doors, right? It was I think it was a pay-per-view event or something like that. I can't really
And
remember,
it did
but
pretty well.
it did. Undertaker's match was damn near comeback season-ish. But they did it behind closed doors. That's what they're continuing to do now. They recently had a Money in the Bank it was yesterday, a pay-per-view event, and it did all right. I don't know exactly like how many people chimed in or anything, but that's another option. Why not play behind closed doors? There's less risk of infection. It'll be a new atmosphere for the fans as well, because this time we'll actually get to hear how the players interact with each other on the field rather than listening to commentators.
Well, I mean, there's still going to be there's still going to be cameras out there. There's still going to be people filming. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be no actual, if you're down the street from the stadium, you're not going to be able to go unless you got a media pass.
Mm-hmm.
And even then,
it's going to be scarce.
Yeah. It's like Coach Echeverry said earlier in the interview, is like, would we, knowing that that they're traveling into places that might have a higher risk, and let's say the valley of people infected with COVID-19, would you feel comfortable to going and covering the team or their or the other team's players? Yeah. For me and Ray, it was like, well, it does make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I know not everybody's the same. Mm-hmm. A lot of more people would be like, well, if it happens, it happens, or they feel comfortable that they won't be as affected by this virus if they were to contract it, Yeah. But honestly, I think that if it comes to that, I think just scrap the season and start fresh. Give the teams time to prepare for the 2021 season. Ray, what is your thought on that?
Another thing that Jeff Reuter did bring up was trying to possibly do divisional play. And one of the things that I really liked about the idea, although the risk is still there for contracting this, the reduced travel for a lot of these teams that they won't lose a lot of money via traveling, which is one of the things. Now, one of the other things that Reuter may have not mentioned, but he kind of like danced around that question, is to have everyone play at the IMG Academy in Florida, or have everyone play at their own stadiums behind closed doors, and albeit with a divisional structure, which has been discussed with the USL owners at this point. So there's that on the table to be in discussion for.
Wasn't MLS going to go down to Florida and do that? Or they were proposing that, no?
They were proposing
Orlando.
Orlando, yeah.
And the IMG Academy is in Bradenton, Florida, which is not too far off from Orlando.
So with this in mind, this discussion about where these teams are going to get revenue, all the expenses that teams have to go through, not to mention as well, with the expense of paying the players. Another question that was brought up in discussion with I think it was also with Jeff Reuter, because he was the one, or who was it that did that article regarding the documents? Let me look at it right here. Jeff Reuter. Yeah, it was Jeff Reuter. So one of the things
Jeff Reuter, the king of the USL, aside from Nipun Chopra.
It looks like, just FYI, it looks like Kembo Kibato lost in
overtime.
I
just saw that 2-1.
Hey, you know what? They had to use a pro gamer to beat Kembo Kibato. I think that says a lot of good things about Kembo. So I applaud his run. It was, it was fun while it lasted, but if a New York Red Bulls is gonna play dirty like that, I've lost a lot of respect for the USL for allowing this to happen. This was supposed to be something fun within the players and within the organizations, and they bring in a pro gamer.
Wait, they brought
They
an
changed-
actual esports pro?
He represents New York Red Bulls at EMLS.
I thought this was like
Mike
amateurs.
LaBelle. Mike LaBelle. AKA Dirty Mike on
Oh,
YouTube.
that dude is hilarious because let me tell you something. He looks at my Instagram stories, so that is absolutely hilarious. But yeah, I thought this was kind of an esports whole deal too, as in like that was legal. That was around the realm of possibility is to get your esports players in.
Now, from what I heard originally, it was supposed to be a players only, like team members only tournament, and I'm guessing they modified it in between the playing round and this round. I just don't, like I said, I just don't think I don't think it's fair and it just shows how scared they were New York Red Bulls against Kembo Kibato. So huge props to Kembo. Hopefully we can have him on soon. Hopefully next week on Northern Valley, kind of get his thoughts on that. But going back into the topic, what I was trying to talk is, one of the things that they mentioned is, okay, knowing all of this, would this pay reduction that is being proposed to USLPA, would you consider this a compromise to allow teams to financially bear with this crisis compared to if they don't do it, the players keep on getting played at their full contract value, but you run into the risk of teams folding because they can't handle all of this expenses without the revenue of tickets or concessions.
I mean, do they still get some kind of income when they air the games on ESPN Plus?
Ray, I believe it is the league redistributes the money that they received from the rights by ESPN Plus to each individual team. Am I right?
That's a very good question, because let's just put this into context. So, say a new team decides to open up. That's approximately anywhere from $5 to $10 million that the league is already getting for an acceptance of a new market. Hence, Monterey, California, jumping from Fresno. Fresno relocated to Monterey in California, so therefore there's no money being made there for the USL. However, one of the markets that the USL, at least for the championship level, where they were looking at is in in the Northeast in Rhode Island, or in the main area to try to get a new championship team. So that's anywhere between $5 million to $10 million that they're making, and approximately 80% of that money that they're making goes to a broker company, which only leaves about anywhere from $1 million to $2 million for the USL to operate in. Now, as far as the revenue money that they get from ESPN, I don't have those numbers in front of me. I don't know what that information may look like, but that is something to investigate to see how they distribute the monies between the 33 teams in the league. Because just remember, a lot of the content that goes up to ESPN Plus, like your college sports, your USLs, and all this stuff, it's basically done with local people and not using their support staff per se. So the only thing that ESPN is responsible for is the providing like the play, or the only thing that the USL is responsible for is providing the play-by-play, while ESPN, the only thing that they're responsible for is like distributing the game for those that have ESPN Plus. Now, whatever comes in, comes in, but just remember, if they have like, I don't know, 60 million, 60 million subscribers, okay, and at 55 bucks a piece. So let's take 60 million subscribers. You multiply that by 55. That's uh,
It's a big number.
3.3. Big number. But out of that 3.3, how much of that goes to the USL, and what are the USL grabs from that? How are you going to distribute that to your League One teams and your League Two teams? Which is why it was very smart of the Toros to open up their online shop, and they'll have that money to as revenue to come in to sustain. Now, I can't tell you what other USL championship teams do as far as like their online marketing store stuff like that to kind of like continue making revenue.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, guys, I did buy my shirt at the online team store.
I need to
They
get
had
mine.
the turnaround was actually pretty quick. Considering
Good.
the situation.
Well done, Charlie Sepulveda, the team store manager. Well done, Charlie.
Definitely. Cesar, you want to say something?
Um, Now, as far as the numbers go, yeah, we don't exactly have, you know, how much of what is being distributed to where or to what teams or anything. But now that Ray mentioned it, yeah, don't they also show the League One games on ESPN
Yes.
Plus?
Yes.
So it makes me wonder, how is USL doing as a whole, not just championship, but League One and Two?
Well, I know. In the case of Forward Madison, hashtag Flamingo, they've been doing real well at promoting their online merch. They've got the Madison against COVID-19 match tickets per se. It's $10 a ticket. $5 goes towards local businesses that need. That require funding, in order to accommodate for foods, towards healthcare workers and stuff like that, to cater to the essential workers there in the Madison, Wisconsin area. And then the $5, it goes towards being able to maintain the funding for Forward Madison. So I think that's something that is, I guess you can say, it's real unique that they've been able to market well. I mean, you're talking about, I think as of this morning, it was 41 states where one person from each of those 41 states, including me, purchased a ticket for this cause. So you're talking about that they are doing their job in the marketing aspect in social media. And they're doing it really, really well. But I don't know about the rest of USL League One. To be honest, I know there were some that were struggling to begin with. So I mean, it's a really interesting subject. But until we have some confirmation from that question that we've had of how these TV rights or these broadcasting rights by ESPN Plus work as far as funding for each individual team in USL Championship and USL League One, that's a really big question that, we can't really have an answer to the original question of, how are these teams going to be able to survive if they don't get the pay cut that the USL wants from these players? How will these teams survive this time if there's no games being played, or if they're played behind closed doors? So moving on to the next topic. Obviously, one of the things that I had mentioned, Cesar, or in the group chat, had to do with the eSports. We just talked that Kembo Kibato got his run ended, in my opinion, unfairly by Mike LaBelle, a professional EMLS player for Red Bulls, who was chosen to represent Red Bulls 2 in this EUSLCup. But you've also had the EUSL Rocket League edition, which I totally bombed out. So sorry about that, guys.
I didn't even try.
I'm sorry.
My hand.
I'm just gonna say it. I'm sorry for putting you all down, or disappointing you all against Logan Ketterer of El Paso in that Rocket League tournament. But
Hey, at least the statement can't be applied to you. Up 9 seconds to go. Remember that one?
I remember that one.
Okay, good.
But what are your thoughts? And because also you've had RGVFC helping down in the valley with the fan FIFA 20 tournament that we hosted. What are your thoughts on esports within the USL? You know, is this a viable future for the teams?
I think right now it's a not really a permanent solution, but I guess you could call it like a band-aid solution. Because right now, those teams or these organizations, they need to get content out. The fans are waiting, but there's only so much that they could do right now with the pandemic that's going on. But it's something's better than nothing. Sometimes you got to take what you can get.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of getting esports content out there, the fact that the players are actively involved with this makes it a whole lot better. It feels like it's, to me, it feels like they're giving back to their community, giving back to their loyal fans. So that way they can show that they have, we're still in this. We're down, but we're not out. We're all in this together, all that good stuff, for the time being.
Jacob, I know you have a whole lot of experience when it comes to with esports, with especially within iRacing. You've seen it in your within racing, with NASCAR, with Formula One. These organizations turning into the world of esports and iRacing to try to keep the season alive for some of these drivers. What are your thoughts on this aspect?
Yeah, this aspect, I think it's pretty good. Of course, the racing side of things too. Of course, the FIFA and Rocket League and all of that. It's 100% different than, of course, like they're two different things. You use your thumbs to play with FIFA, which is, I mean, it's great. Yeah, like Cortez said, it's a big thing of, well, you're just 100. Like, yeah, you're giving back to the community for sure, and that's an interesting, of course, way of just saying it. And then, of course, you got to get content out, and that is big time true. And then, of course, I mean, we all know some way or somehow we might get real soccer back in the future and things like that. But yes, it's been fantastic. You look at the views, of course, they're up because people are wanting live sports, which is why, of course, now you've seen ESPN kind of cover a lot of these esports events. Fox, of course, did the big one for NASCAR before NASCAR announced their return this weekend, which will be epic. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's just, it's big. It's fantastic. It gets people excited about these games that at this point would crash and burn. Besides Rocket League, FIFA every single year, it's hot for the first month. Or the first couple of months. By December, it's pretty big again because people get that for Christmas. Then by around this time, it is dead because people figure out it's not that good every single year. It just gets worse and worse. Don't get me wrong, EA Sports does not know how to make a good game anymore. And that is sad but true. Look at the old games. That's all I'm really going to say about that. And but yeah, it's great. I'm enjoying it, and it's cool.
Go ahead,
Cesar.
I personally regret having bought FIFA for my PC. Recently, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I had that problem where the names wouldn't show up.
Oh yes.
Career mode, it just crashed on me completely. I couldn't even edit my player. None of that.
If you have it on PC, why don't you just buy or not buy, but actually download like the couple of program tools that they use, so you can actually edit, career mode stuff, without going into that edit player thing and running into that 50-year-old bug where all of a sudden like your players are like 50-year-olds like after you edit them inside of career mode within the in-game tool. Plus,
I need to get
also,
that.
you might want to try. I'll send you the files to the RGVFC mod. Give that a try and let's see where you can take the Toros in your career mode. But what I also wanted to say, and going back with Jacob, is how bad is FIFA, or actually how bad is PES? Who a lot of even diehard PES fans have said that FIFA or that PES 20 was absolutely horrendous. I think.
A couple of years ago, they lost the Champions League. They've lost a lot of stuff. They only have a couple of teams.
But even the gameplay, I think the gameplay kind of was a huge letdown this year for PES 20. So I guess 2020 just really wasn't the year for these soccer games, whether FIFA or PES. And you look at FIFA in the Xbox store, and it's like 1.5 star rated. That's how bad this game has been.
Do they still got Liga MX?
Well, to be fair, and I was actually going to make a comment about Liga MX, is the fact that right now nobody cares anymore. And I think it all goes back with how the format is. And I mentioned it to Omar Cerón, a reporter from Monterrey. I said, I really enjoyed... What?
Yeah, you heard me.
Something about Tigres.
Well, what I told him was that the way that the USL did their tournament brackets, the fact that each week it basically start from scratch as far as the point system and elimination bracket, it kind of keeps you, as long as your team is still participating, but it keeps you into it. It keeps you focused into it. You want to see these games because you got something on the line. But the Liga MX, they went with the real life format of the tournament, or of 18 weeks, all these games where you just earn points. Really, there's nothing on the line. So people just lost. And the fact that some of these broadcasts have been horrendous by TUDN, really people stopped caring about it. And so if done right, eSports can help the marketing and the relevancy of the leagues, but if they do it wrong, nobody's gonna care. So Ray, your thoughts on this esports before we go on to our final topic and wrap up the show.
I haven't been much into this esports stuff, primarily because just the hardware itself sometimes can be a bit out of price range. But yes, it has kept me entertained from time to time, and yes, I will lose my man card in watching the Liga MX just to get my sports fill in, and some of the other alternative things that I've done is watching people break open sports cards, which is a hobby which might be crawling back if real sports don't come back to life soon. But going back to the esports thing, it's just something that it's a welcomed distraction. Get to see the real players handle these devices and provide some sort of entertainment.
So last topic.
Speaking of price,
yeah, go ahead. Real quick, Cesar.
Speaking of price range, I tried to get into sim racing, but yeah, I agree with Ray on that. That one's a little out of my price range right now. I know Jacob has a few pointers on that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I've seen like some of these rigs that were on the NASCAR iRacing by some of these drivers who were like so like really really sophisticated, like even like motions like it did motion and stuff like that, and like you're talking about thousands of dollars invested in that thing. That's crazy. Like even just buying a set of pedals and a wheel can be a little bit pricey for those that don't have a lot of money and don't have a lot of income. Imagine some of these pro guys, how much they've invested to get some of the best stuff if you don't have any sponsorship from these manufacturers. So it's esports. It does take a lot of money and a lot of investment of your time as well. But going on into the final topic. So today was officially announced that RGVFC Toros Academy will be joining the new MLS Youth Elite Development Academy. It's the new youth academy that MLS is starting to starting to create. Obviously, all 26 MLS clubs are going to be a part of it, but also you've got, I think it was like 60 some non-MLS teams, including RGVFC, including Phoenix Rising and San Antonio FC, that will be a part of this league. But what are your thoughts on RGVFC taking this decision to go into this MLS Academy, and apparently also at the same time for some of the age groups being a part of the USL Academy league?
Yeah, it's weird. I guess I'll start. It's definitely weird considering they've had problems in the past with just the youth development in general, which is crazy to say, but this is true for RGVFC. I know 3 players right off the top of my head, of course, my cousin and his 2 friends. They were a part of the whatever the old one was called.
The DA?
Idea Academy, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The GA Academy. And, up until a certain point, you don't have good coaching in the USL, which is, of course, that's normal, I guess, if you don't necessarily take the right steps to getting the best youth coaches out there. And so, splitting them up once again, just like you did the first time, that's not going to work. You have some of them, just like you said, in the USL development program, and then another part of an age group in the MLS development program, or whatever else that's called. The YEDA, I think, is YEDA, basically. Mm-hmm. So, it's just, you're asking for a little bit of a disaster. I know that is harsh, or not necessarily harsh, but it's like, you're just splitting up 2 age groups. One's going into a USL academy, learning that style of soccer per se, and then another's going into MLS academy, learning like MLS Youth Academy, learning that style of play too, because guess what? There's a little bit of a difference. One's going to expect higher pace. Another one's going to expect a little slower pace because it's like just out of college stuff, and you got to teach them how to play adult soccer. And so it's that whole thing of just, no, you shouldn't do that. You have to keep one together. That's why the DA was so good, because you didn't have that type of split up. Yes, you had divisions kind of, but they were playing against actual teams fighting for, in these big tournaments. They were playing teams that they would normally play, and they were playing the Houston Dynamos. It was a whole thing. The Houston Dynamos Youth Academy. So, now you're just dividing that up. I don't think that's going to work.
Right.
Well, Jacob, just to counter you a little bit there, why do you think the USDA shut down all of a sudden?
They didn't have enough funding.
No.
I call BS on that.
I call BS on that too, because the only reason why it shut down is because the U.S. Soccer Federation realized that there was a lot of money going into that, while they were facing litigation or not litigation, but they were facing the legals from the U.S. women's team, and you take that into perspective in how they had to face that, and then you also add the fact that okay, we're shutting down the USDA, but now it's going to be up to the USL clubs and the MLS clubs to start providing their own fruit and their own labors to try to provide for the future of the United States soccer. So there's that point of view to look at, and I think it's quite well that that the 3 teams that the RGVFC Academy can do, like your U15s, your U17s, and your U19s, to have 3 separate teams, and then eventually make one super team to compete against these these bigger teams like the own Houston Dynamos against Frisco, against the Flying Cows of New York, and all these other teams, academy teams, to try to provide uh, some sort of foundation for United States soccer. I think that this is a little bit of a better idea than what the DA had, because the DA kept receiving money, but it just did not know uh, how to do the development process of it. Yes, the IMG Academy was kind of like their home base, but so what? At the end of the day, you needed to see kids get developed and not stalled, and I think that's where I that's where you want where that's where one should have seen the United States Soccer Federation say, you know what, we had a mea culpa with the DA and we messed it up big time, and now we're just giving it to you MLS and you USL Championship plus your 60 plus odd teams from California that are not affiliated to uh, try to be the face of the youth of U.S. soccer.
Yeah. And real quick, you say, of course, the super teams. It's funny. A lot of players, just like I said, left the DA Academy of the Toros, and I'm pretty sure that happens all around the nation, which that's a big thing as well. And so what I'm trying to say here is I think you can find better talent in the high school levels now than you will find in the DA level or whatever it's going to be called now. And
No, yeah,
just because,
I
well,
mean,
they're going to go to
it's not.
college and they're going to learn a lot more
I mean,
soccer than pay to play. That's a big thing, is always pay to play.
yeah, and you bring up an interesting point, because I think that the Toros organization is good. I mean, they already have like a nice solid base. Yes, they may want to recruit some of these kids to do kind of like their travel soccer ball with their travel teams as a Toros, as a U19 type of thing. I, I I mean, you are absolutely right. The Valley is a little bit of a hotbed because they produced multiple state championship winners in the past, and one of those examples is Isidro Martinez. Although he didn't go through the RGV Academy, he was part of a process that, yes, you were you did everything here in the Valley locally, from going to high school, uh, doing the Division 1 program, into doing the USLeCup type of league, and then you were able to do your 4 years with UTRGV into the professional stage. So yes, there's that to look at upon, and I'm pretty sure there's like many other cases here in the Valley that, okay, yes, we are loaded with a local high school talent. It's just a matter of the scouts and the coaches trying to bring them in to compete like in a professional environment. Try to
Cesar,
go
Ces-
in a best of the best format.
Cesar, last words on this topic for you?
Um, I'm going with what Jacob said, that it was you are kind of asking for a recipe of disaster, because like you said, you got two types of styles that are going to be implemented with the youth now, going with the USL side of things and then the MLS side of things. But who knows? Maybe they'll be able to use both kinds of experience in their you know in their careers, because sometimes some kids are even lucky to be in one type of development academy.
Yeah.
But down here in the valley, like Ray said, it is kind of a hotbed because it has produced a lot of young talent, with prime example being Isidro Martinez. But as far as high school goes, um, it's, these kids, they're in their, not even in their prime. They're barely reaching, their peak performance. They're barely tapping into their potential. And yet they give so much effort. Who's to say that the Valley won't be able to produce that much more talent now that, RGVFC is here?
And I do kind of want to make a rebuttal on Ray's. Hold on. What is going on here? I do want to make a rebuttal on Ray's. What? Hello? Test. Why is it coming? Okay, there we go. There we go. I want to make a rebuttal on Ray's, or actually it was Jacob's assessment of two different play styles. I think at the end of the day, teams are going to implement their particular play style, whether it's actually what's the word I'm looking for, a similar style that the first team has, whether it's USL or MLS. And I think at the end of the day, it serves as the purpose of it is you're putting two different play styles. You're going to clash them together. Which one is more beneficial, or which one is going to get you most of the wins? It's not. I don't really see that all MLS Academy teams are going to have a homogeneous play style that they have to follow in order to participate. I think each individual participant is going to have their own type of play style, how they're teaching these kids, and at the end of the day, the one with the more consistent play style, the more efficient play style is going to come up on top, and all of that is, I think it's going to help with the competitiveness of these academies going up against the best of the or what could be the best of the best of the nation. And hopefully that'll leak into the pipeline to when they make it to, hopefully they make it to the first team. I see it more as a plus. The organization side of it, there's still a big iffy, knowing how MLS handles things, knowing how USSF has handled the DA in the past. But in theory, I do think that this is a good thing for the RGVFC Toros Academy. In regards to that, I know they did go live at 7 p.m. In their official Facebook page. So for all of y'all that are listening on the podcast, be sure to check that out. I'll be putting a link on our social media so you guys can listen to the official word of the RGVFC Toros Academy in regards to this decision of going into the MLS Youth Elite Development Academy or Development League. Mm-hmm. So I think for now, that's it. That's it for now. I know it's already going to be 9:00. It's been 2 hours, both in YouTube and of course the local recording. So what's going to happen is number one, I'm going to have to do a lot of editing. Usually more that I'm usually accustomed to.
You have your work cut out for you.
Yeah, pretty much. So because I have to pretty much make this video, upload it to YouTube, but I've also got to make the podcast version. So how it's going to work? I'm going to be uploading Gerson Echeverry's interview with us separately as its own separate segment. And then our discussion with these topics that have come up during this suspension will be its own different episode, pretty much. So be sure to be on the lookout for those episodes. If you guys have not subscribed, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/downinthevalley. Be sure to also check out our podcasts on Apple Music, Google Music, or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wrong term, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, and TuneIn Radio. Be sure to check out this and all the other previous episodes, including the Copa Tejas episodes that have been coming along. Be sure to check out Ray's stuff at South Texas Border Sports. He's also on YouTube. Just search for South Texas Border Sports. He's a lot more into the actual interviews of players and coaches after practices. Obviously not now because of COVID. Thank you, COVID. But during when games were happening, after the games, he's the man that handles the interview videos. So be sure to support him and check out his YouTube channel. I know, Jacob, you've got Tip of Texas Sports Network, where you talk a lot more about sports discussion with racing. and even some soccer, some college football as well. You've been doing that. Be sure to check out his channel as well. Follow him on his social media. I know, Race, you are going as STX Border Sports on, or is it STX Athletics? I don't remember, on Twitter.
SOTX Athletics.
With an X, right?
Or yes, or just type Pro Sports RGV and you'll find me there.
Okay, and Jacob, I know you are on Twitter. You are as Jacob Young 456.
Bandwidth again.
Nice background, Jacob.
Thanks.
I did one.
How did you get that done?
So yeah, I've been there. That's actually my picture.
Love it, Coda, right?
What's up?
It's Coda.
There.
That's it. That's at Coda at Circuit of the Americas.
Give it time. Give it time.
Jacob, can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I believe you said that as Coda Circuit of the Americas. Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right.
Yeah.
Hopefully by next week, everything will be back to normal once I'm back in my apartment and my badass internet. Yeah, but I was mentioning, so on Twitter, they can follow you at Jacob Young 456. On Instagram, you're under Jacob Young 99. Because you've also got your Twitch channel as well, right?
Yeah, I haven't posted that. And Twitter is actually Jacob Young 456. I haven't posted on Twitch because it is ridiculous to post some stuff. It's shockingly harder than YouTube, even though YouTube has sucked for a while now, especially in this quarantine. But that's to be expected. Other than that, it's fine.
And then Cesar, you are Quart_easy, if I'm not mistaken, on Twitter.
Yep. Although I don't really use Twitter as often as I use Instagram anymore.
Just plug in that Instagram, bro.
Matter of fact, I actually have Ray's got South Texas Border Sports. Jacob, you've got Tip of Texas Sports Network for your racing. I actually launched one. I think it was last year. Now I'm known as Quartz Golfing.
Yeah, so be sure to
It's something
be sure
I've been
to follow.
doing for the past years.
And he's got a lot of good videos on how he's been keeping up his form during this COVID. He would post updates on how he's been doing in certain golf courses here in the Rio Grande Valley. So if you guys are into golfing, be sure to check out Quartz Golfing on Instagram and check out his process in his golfing abilities. So, guys, I really want to thank you all for taking the time to come in and discuss soccer.
Sponsored by Flexio.
I can't see it. There we go. No, I can't see it. No.
Sorry, this camera don't got dual pixel autofocus.
Seems legit. Well, but yes, he is sponsored by Flexio, so it's a shameless plug, and we are open to that. You got to have your commitments. Also, as I was gonna say, be sure to also check out our stuff and Down in the Valley. Follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Down in the RGV. Like I said, all the podcasts, obviously also the website, ditvpodcast.com, where we should be writing articles hopefully soon as well. And I'll be posting, the links to all of the podcasts for this particular episodes. Really appreciate you all taking the time to coming in discussing soccer after a long time of not being able to do so. I really missed you guys. I'm glad that you all are doing really well. Besides the circumstances of us having to be quarantined inside of our homes and not doing everything we would love to do, like going out to HEB Park and watching the game. But I mean, it is what it is. Hopefully things will be back to normal soon. And
it's better than watching our team lose 4-0. So
5-0.
That'll happen sometime.
5-0.
Well, even worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what they say. Let bygones be bygones. But yeah, guys, thank you for joining us. And hopefully we should be back tomorrow. Things will be back to normal, hopefully, as regards to not having any connection issues and being things a lot more stable. like I said, I'm with my family. I did quarantine here with my family in McAllen, taking advantage that I had to work. I could work from home. So the internet isn't that great here with in the Rio Grande Valley. Thank you, Spectrum. But
I resent that. I'm using theirs right now.
I mean, I'm using theirs too, and this is what's happening. We're having so many issues, and our internet speed isn't that bad. But you know what they say. But thank you guys. Be sure to check out our podcast. We'll see you all next week. Hopefully, we'll be back, and hopefully, we can actually have Kembo Kibato on as well. See you in the next one. Take care and have a good night.